Great. So just have less than a minute left and we will get started proper. That's good. So if in the chat, if you just want to drop where in the country or in the world you are, that'd be great. It'd be lovely to see that because we do have people from all over the place, which is really great to have everyone together in that manner. But yeah, it'd be nice to see. So okay, yep, we've got Birmingham, we've got Harrow, we've got London. Brilliant. Edgware, yeah. Mill Hill, Kingsbury, fantastic. So yeah, just asking everyone to just drop in where in the world they are. Great to have you on, Raju. He's joining us from the USA, so that's great. Brilliant. All right. Monica, Edgware, lovely, and Luton, fantastic. So inside of London, outside of London, London suburbs, other cities in the UK and outside of the UK, fantastic. So let's get rolling with this. So as you can see on the screen, hopefully everyone can see the screen. It's a really warm welcome to everyone to Happy Life Habits Inspiration Point podcast. This is series 2. We're on episode 5 with Dr. Ajay Shah, a superhero doctor. And it's a 6-episode series, and yeah, this is our penultimate episode, and the next week will be our final one for this series. And as usual, what we would like to start with is just using a scale of 0 to 10, but not using the number 7, but you're allowed to use fractions and you're allowed to use decimals. Just take a checkpoint for yourself where you are right now on that scale of 0 to 10. And just, yeah, feel free to drop it in the chat if you feel comfortable doing that. And the thing here for everyone to remember, whether you're joining us for the first time or you've been with us before, whatever number you put, it's your number, it's your scale, it's a number for you. So everyone's number will be different. Someone's 8 might be someone else's 6. So you don't worry about what other people are sharing. It's for you to just use as a checkpoint to see where you are right now at this point on that scale. So that's the purpose of this. And it's to raise that awareness. And in raising that awareness, if it's a number you're not happy with, then the things that we share in Happy Life Habits can help you to shift that number upwards. So that's the purpose of just that checkpoint to see where we are. And again, at the end of the session, we'll take a checkpoint and see where we are. Okay, fantastic. So nice range there. Oh, Vidapai, you're not allowed to use number 7, but you are allowed to use fractions. So you can either go up or you can go down. But 7 will be disqualified. Great. So as a quick introduction to everyone, yes, this is a Happy Life Habits Project Inspiration Point podcast, and I'm Ajay Shah, happiness coach certified in the science of happiness, and through Happy Life Habits, we are positively impacting people's happiness and well-being levels. So our project, ground rules. So this session is being recorded, and we ask you to put your mobiles on silent for the duration. If you can, stay on mute, much appreciated. And when we come to the interview point, we'll ask you to switch off your videos then, and then at the point of Q&A, you can switch your videos back on and you can come off mute and share. But at this moment in time, you're okay to have the videos on for a moment. So yeah, as I mentioned, Ajay Shah, happiness coach, certified in the science of happiness and positively impacting people's happiness and well-being levels. And Inspiration Point podcast is one of these projects. And what we're working with is having 1 hour where we are in an environment with inspiring, positive, extraordinary people who are sharing their journey, their challenges, turning points, daily habits and learning through personal development, happiness, and spirituality. It's there based on us focusing on hearing what people's journeys and stories are and gathering optimism and inspiration from there, and also reminding ourselves of when we face a challenge that we too can rise to that challenge and find a way through. So that's the purpose of Inspiration Point. It's based on 10 core questions. These are the same 10 questions we ask everyone. They're really focused on positive, positive questions. And as we ask the questions to our interviews, you can ask the question to yourself and see and reflect on what the question or what the answer might be for you, such as what makes you happy, what currently are you doing that inspires you, what's been your journey and challenges and major turning points, what are the habits and routines that support you, and what's one of your favorite quotes, amongst other questions. So those are what we have that we are working with here. Great. So this whole series has been sponsored by Balance Consultancy, professional will writers and lasting powers of attorneys. Really grateful for them, sponsoring the whole 6 episodes, and really appreciate that. And as I shared last week, some really good news. They have confirmed that they will be sponsoring Series 3, which will follow on straight on the back of Series 2 from the 17th of, the 10th of March. And that series is dedicated to women. It's dedicated to International Women's Day, and it's dedicated to Mother's Day. And so we have 6 wonderful women sharing their stories and their journeys on that one. And here's some more information about it. Registration is open for either the individual sessions or via the Happy Life Habits website. And if you'd like a VIP pass, please get in touch and we can arrange that. But each of these people have got some amazing journeys and stories that they'll be sharing with us. And there's more information on each of them on the website. So now we'd like to focus in on today's session. So today's session is with Dr. Ajay Shah, and we've entitled it Superhero Doctor. Ajay is my cousin. He lives in Birmingham, and he's going to share his journey of how he's become a doctor, and he's practicing in one of the most innovative surgeries in Birmingham. They were the first ones to administer the COVID vaccine in Birmingham City. They've been put forward for a parliamentary recommendation and an award. They've been featured in the clips of Ajay on ITV News over the recent weeks. And Ajay in the past has been written up in the Times as well. And all of this, is related to his career as a doctor. But as we'll hear his journey, he almost didn't get into med school. His predicted grades and his teachers were saying, there's no way you're going to get into med school. And this was 6 months before he was sitting his A-levels. And Ajay will share the story of how, 1 month before A-levels, things turned around, and the things he did to turn that and get the results he needed to get into medical school, have that career in medicine, make that impact and difference. And today, just chatting to him a few minutes earlier, he's had the surgery that he's part of has been administered between 500 to 600 COVID vaccines just today. And this is, a regular basis, day in, day out. But what else can I say? So when Ajay was in his early teens, his father, my uncle, suddenly passed away. And last week, not last week, 2 weeks ago, episode 3, we heard from Niraj, Ajay's younger brother, sharing some of his journey. And today we're hearing from Ajay, and our first episode in series 3 will be Ajay Niraj's mum, my aunt, Anju auntie, who will share her story and journey. So in that way, we're getting different angles on this family and some of the journey they've had there. And when he was 25, Ajay had thyroid cancer. So just as he's kicking into his medical career, having thyroid cancer. So there's all of these things which have been challenges or doors closing, but he's pushed through those. And as we said, now doing some fantastic work. And Ajay loves travel, photography, and board games. And he's the person I turn to if I want a book recommendation, a film recommendation, or a board game recommendation, or a travel place recommendation. So he's very well versed in a whole range of these, and kicks ass when playing Trivial Pursuit. So that's a short introduction to Ajay. So if you are able to switch off your videos now and stay on mute, we will go into the interview section. And as I said, after the interview, we will open up for Q&A. So Ajay, really, a warm welcome. So glad that you were able to join us, and thank you for taking part in Inspiration Point podcast. And I know just when we were chatting, you just got home an hour ago after administering a whole bunch of COVID vaccines today, and great to have you.
Yeah. Thank you, Shailene, and also for that introduction. Yeah, I'm really glad to be here, and thanks for inviting me, and thank you to all the people who are listening and giving up their valuable time as well to let me share some of the things I've learned in my journey so far.
Excellent. So we will start with our usual question, and that is, Ajay, what makes you happy?
Doing this, for starters. No, I mean, happiness I define as a momentary emotion. It's that sort of moment where you suddenly feel elated, you have joy. Lots and lots of things make me happy. Shailene may not have mentioned, but I've got 2 children, a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old. So one of the things that I absolutely love is the look of wonder on their faces. They're actually listening to this as well. But when new things are introduced to them, so when we take them to a new place, traveling, when we revisit a film with them, a new one or an oldie that's a goodie from Back to the Future, new experiences, taking them to restaurants, reading new books with them, all those things. It's absolutely brilliant, and me and Seema love doing that. And kids at this stage are like a sponge, aren't they? They're really curious. They love absorbing all this stuff. They always ask us questions. It's something we unfortunately tend to lose as we become older. So yeah, absolutely. The kids to all those things. I also like photography a lot and capturing memories with photography. And I mean, Seema will say that when we go on holiday, I will sometimes disappear for a few hours just to get some photos. It takes a lot of effort to get a good photo. I'll even go back to places if I'm not happy with the photos I've taken just to get the right one. I like a lot of adrenaline activities. So I've done most things from hang gliding, skydiving, microlighting, rafting down a waterfall. I cycle a lot as well, so I love doing that. And I also love watching the kids excel through their hard work, because they are really, really good kids and they're very, very hardworking. And finally, just making a small difference to my patients' lives and the gratitude they show. I don't think there's any other job, or there's probably very few jobs where you get the feedback where you've literally changed someone's life. And you've not actually done a lot in your own mind, but to these people, it's a huge thing, and it's really, really gratifying when they come back with that sort of feedback.
Fantastic. So yes, I do remember the adventure angle, and I do remember, I know Ishani and Ashni have grown up, like you said, on Back to the Future, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Harry Potter, and the Marvel and DC stuff, all the classics. So that's brilliant. Excellent. So what are you currently doing that inspires you?
So as you've already mentioned, I'm a GP. I'm very lucky in that I work in a great surgery. I run it with 2 very close friends. And I think we are truly innovative in the way we're set up in terms of the services we provide. And I'm going to touch a little bit later about some of the things we've done in the past, but the most current thing is the vaccination program. When this was first proposed back in December, I think a lot of people had apprehension about delivering it. We went after it, we asked to run it, we didn't shy away from what seemed like a huge challenge at the time. We've got a really good team, and I'm the clinical lead for our network of practices, and we've been hosting it in our building. We were the first practice in Birmingham to give a COVID vaccine, and we ended up in the local press as a result. It's taken a huge team effort, a lot of work, but we're flying. We are way ahead of the government target. I think a lot of our patients have been pleasantly surprised to get the phone call to come and have their vaccine. And I think some of them have responded with, "Are you sure you've got the right person?" And yes, we have got the right person. Loads and loads of great feedback about how well it's been run. It's probably the biggest thing we have done and will ever do, and definitely one of the most rewarding. As you mentioned, I've even ended up in the national news on ITV a few times in the last few weeks as well, because they've also recognised how well we've been running the service and have come to us and asked to film, and we've been happy to help out.
Yeah, and I remember previously when we were chatting, when the vaccination program started, there was a lot of confusion in terms of what the messages were coming out from the government and what needs to be done. Can you share a little bit about that and how you guys dealt with that?
Well, we've got a great team. That's the first thing, and we all rely on each other massively. So the messages kept changing when the vaccination program first launched. The guidelines were changing. It was literally the night before you start to deliver it, they would deliver a whole load of new rules and guidelines about what you could and couldn't do. So we had to adapt very quickly, a lot of weekends and evenings. We ended up having to put a marquee in our car park last minute, and we had to find that, and also just change the way we ran the clinic and all sorts of things. So it has been a huge challenge. And in the first few weeks, it was really difficult, but it's a really well-oiled machine now. So everyone knows what they're doing, and it's really working well. It really is.
So earlier today, I asked you how many vaccinations are you doing in a day, and how many maybe do you yourself administer over a period, and can you share some of those stats?
Yeah, so we can do, I mean, today we've done probably about 500 odd vaccines in our, we're lucky we've got a huge building, so we can dedicate a third of that building to just vaccinating, so one section, and it's a whole one-way system. I mean, me personally, and my nurse is better than me at giving these things, and some of my colleagues are as well, but I've got down to about 2 to 3 minutes per vaccine now. So if I'm doing an hour's clinic, I can probably get about 20 done, something like that.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's a lot of practice, I suspect, more than anything else. When I first started, it was 6-7 minutes per vaccine, because it was just a lot of nervousness about giving what's a very new technology. So,
but it's that aspect of the learning curve, and you've gone, like you said, full on into it as a surgeon and as an individual, of going up that learning curve. And remember, we're coming towards the end of Feb at the moment, so it's only just over 2 months that this has been happening. And 2 months ago, back in December, what you just shared of things changing, and this is stuff that hasn't been done before. It's you're putting in place the procedures and the learning and the best practices as you're going along and learning from it, and it's improving. And now to be able to do the effectiveness that you are able to, it's brilliant. And like I said, that impact of changing lives every single day, that number is brilliant.
It is, and we've seen stuff that's been forwarded to us on Facebook that patients have posted about how well, not even our patients, by the way, because we host it for a lot of other practices. So they've posted things on social media saying about how well it's been run, or how they've taken the relative there and couldn't believe how well it was run, and how friendly, and this is a credit to my staff, how friendly everyone was. And everyone in that team plays a part, right from the person who greets people at the door, to the person manning the tent, to the person drawing up the vaccine, our pharmacist who mix it up, to who gives it. It's a huge team effort. It really is. And I think all of them are very, very good at delivering their role in that team. And they all do a big smile as well. As much as you can smile with a mask on is what I will say. They smile with their eyes.
Yes. And I think, reading into that, I think some of it is this whole aspect of, like you said, the team working together, but also there being clarity on what the team is, what the roles are, what the purpose is, what the vision is, and not seeing it just as a job, but seeing it as a service, and making that full on out of delivering that service with love and compassion.
Very much so. And we treat our staff as, we call them family. We don't say team. We actually use that word, and they all know that they can come to any of the partners to ask us questions. They can phone us at any time. We've got a really happy working environment now, and I mean, so much so that we're in a position where I can't remember the last time we advertised for a doctor. They come to us all the time. We are turning doctors away, because they've heard of the reputation that, well, they've been part of something we delivered, and next thing you know, they're asking us, can we work with you? So we're very, very privileged. I mean, practice nurses are very hard to get hold of. We advertised for one in October. We had about 20 applicants, which is quite a lot for a practice nurse. And yeah, so it's nice to have that as well, that people want to come and work. And a lot of our trainees, we're a training practice, they all come back asking for jobs once they qualify, and we've taken a few of them on. So yeah, we're in a good position in that respect.
That's fantastic. That's great. And it reminds me of something which, when we come onto the quote, I'll share, which will tie in there. So that's brilliant, and that's kind of scenario, and that's what's inspiring you. But maybe it's now a good time to discuss the journey and why medicine? Why did you choose medicine? And how you almost didn't get into medicine. It would be, I think, great to hear that part of the journey.
So, as you've already said, my mom's listening on this as well. So we had a very happy, me and my brother. We got everything we wanted, but our parents also pushed us as well. And this all changed when I was 16, and I remember that day really clearly. And the reason I remember it is because I was actually at home revising for my GCSE mocks in early January, and this was the day before smartphones. Mom was at work, my brother Niraj was at school, and a phone call came into the house from my dad's office, and it was his boss. And he said, look, your father's not very well. We've had to call an ambulance for him. Now, in my 16-year-old mind, I did not understand the gravity of that situation, but also I could not, we didn't have mobile phones. I had no way of contacting my mom. So I just had to sit there with that news. And as soon as mom came home, I told her, and mom, I don't think she came to the house. She just goes, right, I'm going. And she went straight to the hospital. And then afterwards, we went with my uncle, my dad's younger brother, so Uncle Kaka, and we found out that dad had a heart attack. And I remember going to the hospital and seeing him hooked up to all these machines. And he said to me and my brother, do not worry. And again, I didn't still grasp the gravity of what was happening. We went home thinking, yeah, that's fine, dad will be home soon. And I think 2, 3 in the morning, Minaj got a phone call from Uncle Kaka again saying we've got to go to the hospital. So we got dressed, went into the car, got there, and found out that he'd had another heart attack and passed away very suddenly. And huge shock to the system. Just before I missed my mock exams completely. I didn't even sit them. I just went straight into my GCSEs. I remember when I got my results, we were actually in Kenya at the time. And I think one of the first things mom said was dad would have been super proud. One of his happiest moments was when me and Niraj passed our 11th class exams. He valued education so much and instilled in us the attitude of hard but also smart work. So I did well in my GCSEs, and I entered A-levels with probably the wrong attitude. I wrongly assumed that A-levels would be very much the same, and there was a lot more emphasis on self-directed learning in A-levels. And I was still in that, back then it was end of year exam, so there was no modular work. What you did in your exam is the grade you got at the end of 2 years. You couldn't make up the marks for coursework, none of that at all. And I remember at the end of my first year, my results were really bad. I got 2 E's and an N. An N is non-classifiable. I hadn't even got enough marks to get an E. And I mean, I remember my reports, that some of the comments, and there were things like he does not grasp or retain enough facts. He's done very poorly in this. He's got 3 out of 30 in one section. So I was not in a great place with that. And I remember that parents' evening after that, I went with mom, and my teachers, a few of them said, how much work did you do? And I said, well, nothing really. I just went in and tried to do it off the top of my head. And my chemistry teacher actually asked me, he said, look, what do you want to do for university? And I just blurted out the hardest degree I could think of. So I said, yeah, medicine. And I think he almost shouted out in the middle of the parents' evening, medicine, you've got absolutely zero chance of getting into medicine. It's the hardest degree. And he goes, if you pull your finger out and work really hard, you can be satisfied with a good C grade. And I actually looked at him and said, I'm going to get an A. And he goes, no, you're not. And I said, yes, I am. And he goes, there's no way you're getting an A. And I go, we're going to have to just disagree. And that was that parents' evening. And I had considered medicine, but I think at that point my mind was made up. It was a bit of a, right, these lot are saying I can't do it, so here we go. My problem was that my mind was made up, but my attitude did not follow very much. So at my Christmas exams, I did slightly better. I got a B, a D, and an E. I got a massive lecture from my deputy head saying, look, if you want to get into medical school, you really need to do better than this, and you've got 6 months. I remember when I put my uni applications in, I was told by my form teacher, oh, you shouldn't apply to Imperial and King's, you'll never get in. You should put down Dundee and places like that because they'll take anyone. And I said, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to someone, you know, I've got nothing against Dundee, but it's just too far away for me to go to. So I put down all, you know, prestigious universities, and I got one interview, and I'm pretty good at interviews. So I did very well in the interview, and I got an offer from Cardiff, and that was it. A few weeks before my exams, we were sitting exam papers, and I wasn't doing very well in those. So my form teacher called me aside and said, look, what are you going to do when you fail your exams? Not if, when. And I said, I'll probably resit. And he goes, yeah, because some people need a good kick at the backside, and you're one of those. So that was that. And I think about a month before my exams, I started panicking, and I went into hardcore survival revision mode. And I remember one of my friends, who's still a very close friend now, who's in a similar position. We would phone each other every day and give each other such a hard time. We did not realize how much we were motivating each other to work.
So just going to come in on that for one moment. So Miro, here's my son. He's in J-level mode. Do what Ajay is doing, but do it at least more than a month before.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. So yeah, so we and I didn't realize how much I was absorbing, just because we would literally phone each other and ask each other how much work we'd done and have a really hard go at each other. So I went into my exams. I remember almost walking out my physics exam thinking I can't answer these questions, and I just calmed myself down. I don't know what happened, and I just answered the questions and walked out. Chemistry, I managed to miss an entire page. Biology, the essay question, I wrote 2 pages. Everyone else came up saying, yeah, I wrote 5 or 6 pages. I was like, oh, I'm in big trouble here. And then I forgot about that and thought, right, I'm really going to have to think about what I'm doing next year because I'm probably not going to get in. I remember we came to Kenya that year for your wedding. But this time I didn't have the guts to stay in Kenya for my results. I thought I'm going to be on a phone in clearing. So we came home. I went to get my results, and I opened the paper, and the first thing I said to my head teacher was there was good. I said, are these actually my results, or have you mixed them up? He goes, no, they're yours. I'd actually got straight A's. And when I spoke to the school afterwards, they said I was the only one in the school who got more than they predicted. And I mean, for example, chemistry, I missed a page, but I still got 92%. And what I realized was, I think it's that adrenaline fight or flight, that these things were in my head and they just came out at that moment of stress. And somehow or other, I was putting the right things on the paper. And even that biology, I said I only wrote 2 pages for, I got the highest mark for that section in the entire school, because it was the quality of what, you know, it was, I still don't know how, is what I will say. And I ended up in med school in Cardiff, not my first choice, but actually I'm so glad I went there, because obviously I met Seema there, and that would never have happened otherwise.
Which is your
yeah,
for people who don't know.
Yeah, conned her into marrying me. And med school was fine. I mean, I was never at the top of the club. I knew in med school I just needed to get through and get the degree, and the real learning starts afterwards. I wasn't there to change the world or do anything. Did a lot of traveling in med school, managed to go to the Far East, to South America, to Mauritius, loads of places, had a great time, and didn't really know what I wanted to do afterwards. Stayed in Wales, where I studied for another year, then went traveling for another 6 months, again to various places like China and India and so forth, and came back to Birmingham and started on my path to becoming a GP, I decided by this point. And then the second big bombshell of my life landed. So at the age of 25, I distinctly remember I'd noticed a swelling in my neck, and I'd actually noticed it in medical school, and I'd gone to see a doctor there who basically misdiagnosed me, as I found out a couple of years later, and told me not to worry about it. So I left it. Seema kept telling me, you need to go and get that checked out. And I was like, no, I'm fine. I feel fine. It'll be okay. And it was getting bigger and bigger. And so I went to see a doctor here, and she sent me to a specialist straight away. I think she realized the gravity of that. And I had the various tests, and I was told, you've got thyroid cancer. And not only have you got thyroid cancer, but it's actually spread to most of your neck as well. So we need to get you into surgery like soon, in the next few weeks. I was 25. I thought I was invincible and bulletproof. I remember saying to my boss, yeah, I'll be out of work for about 4 weeks. I'll be back. And he just looked at me and said, yeah, I don't think so. I said, it's just surgery. And he goes, you've got no idea. This is big surgery. So I had my surgery on my 26th birthday. I still remember. It was actually on my birthday. And a 5-hour operation turned into an 8-hour operation, because when they opened me up, they found the cancer had spread everywhere. It was so bad that they took out my thyroid, one of the bones of my neck's gone, my internal jugular vein they had to take out, and I started bleeding out when they took that out. or lymph nodes, I think about 15, 20 on each side were taken out. I came out of there with 3 drains. My scar was supposed to be up to here. It actually went up to here. My face was swollen up. I've never felt so unwell in my life. I'd lost a stone in weight. My blood count dropped to 8. My calcium was in its boots. SEMA didn't let me look at myself for about 3 days because when I looked in the mirror, my head was out here. It had swollen up so badly. So I spent a week in hospital, and I think I was pretty low at that point because I was sitting there thinking, is this it? Is this how I'm going to be? Remember the physios telling me, look, it will get better. I could not lift my arm above here. I couldn't walk for 3 days. I had to sleep upright for 3 weeks. It took me an hour to get ready. It was not a lot of fun. And this was the year before me and Seymour were supposed to get married. So I was sitting there thinking, well, is this it now? I mean, I did all the physio. I went back to work probably a bit too early. I went back after 3 months and didn't realize how tired I was. And I recovered and I built myself back up. Me and Seymour got married the next year, and we went on a 6-month honeymoon. And part of the decision making behind that honeymoon was what had happened the year before. You thought life's too short. So we were really lucky. We got married and we literally got a round the world pass, and we went to India, Hong Kong, Vietnam, Cambodia, Australia, New Zealand, Chile, Argentina. And I think we stopped off in the States in the middle of all that and came back home. This was in the days before smartphones, before the internet was widely used. So you'd go to these places with literally a book and no idea of what you're going to walk into. And we saw some amazing things. Absolutely brilliant time. Then I came back. We both became GPs. And then we went traveling again. So we went for 2 months to India, Nepal, and Tibet. It was absolutely amazing again. Then bought this house, had the kids, and I started at my surgery. So when I first started at West Heath, it was literally a house at West Heath Surgery. It was 1 house, 2 rooms, a little nurse's room. And I remember going there and meeting my now very good friend and business partner, a guy called Nimel, who I went to school with. And he was trying to sell this place to me. And if you looked at it, you'd sit there and think, well, this isn't all that. But we started talking, started chatting. We knew that we were both aligned on the same page. Now, he's not a doctor, but he's my partner in the surgery, which is a very unusual arrangement. And we've gone from that to, you've seen our medical centre now. We've gone from that to one of the biggest medical centres in Birmingham on the same site. It got so big that we even bought the house next to it, since you've seen it, knocked that down and extended it by another third. And that's where the vaccination stuff's happening. And yeah, that's where I am now.
So all this from being told, you're not going to forget about going for medicine, and that stimulating you into taking action, pulling out the stops, getting the results, getting into med school, going to Cardiff, meeting Seema there and all of that chain of the kids and that, and this career and all of this from...
Yeah, it did. And the one thing I will say is that thyroid cancer at the time I thought was, wow, what's happened to me? But now it made me an infinitely better doctor, because you know, once you've been through something, you can relate to your patients. So if they're going to go for a test, I suspect I've had it. If they're going to go for a type of scan, I suspect I've had it as well. You know, I've gone through the whole recovery, the uncertainty, what that involves. So any of my patients who have any, life-defining illness like that, I find it much easier to talk to them, and a lot of them find it easier to talk to me, because they know that I'm not just spouting from a medical book, I'm talking from experience.
You're talking from the heart, because the empathy is there.
Yeah, it's made me a much better doctor than I ever would have been, actually. It really has.
Yeah, so no, thank you for that. And yeah, I remember you sharing, that was one incident, and another incident was when you were training, and I think one of your trainers was not a very good trainer, and that let you know what you didn't want to be and how you wanted to be.
Yeah, you're very right. So when I was training as a GP, I'm not going to say who, but one of my trainers, I don't think her heart was really into it. And what had happened was she'd had a load of trainees who just kept their mouth shut, put their heads down, and finished their stint there and got out. And when I got there, I think I was probably one of the first to actually stand up and say something, and she didn't take that particularly well. So she went to the deanery and accused me of being the worst trainee she's ever had. And obviously I'm not coping. I'm going to be an awful GP. all these kind of things. And luckily, the deanery knew me. They knew what I've been through. They said I've always had good reports. So they sided with me and moved me out of there. But I learned exactly how not to be a trainer in those few months. And we're a training practice. I have trainees come through all the time. And the feedback I get now is actually, we get exceptional trainee feedback. And it is, again, we're shaping these guys' careers, actually. We're convincing them to do general practice. And as I said, a lot of them decide to do general practice and they come to our door and knock on it and ask us for a job when they've actually qualified, which is the best feedback you can get, I suspect.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fantastic. And how some of these adversities have shaped the strengths in your being and what you do and how you do it. So
yeah, I mean, look, what I say to my trainees is to be a good doctor, and not just a GP, any doctor. You know, the most important thing is actually being curious. You know, have an interest in your patient. You're just talking to them like you would talk to a normal person. It's just a medical conversation. Lots of my patients, I know what they do outside of work. I know who their kids are. I know where they go. I just try and turn it into a conversation. And as I said to them, be curious. If they say something to you and you think that's not right, pick up on that, because that's how you will pick up on things. You will diagnose things. So patients really appreciate that, the fact that you are interested in them, and that is the most important skill you can have to be a good doctor.
No, that's absolutely fantastic. And I think this is, I think, the appropriate point to share the quote that I had in mind, which I have shared previously in some of the articles and stuff. And it's Patch Adams. So Patch Adams was a real doctor. There's a great movie about it with the fantastic Robin Williams playing Patch Adams. And Patch Adams had gone to med school and was a bit not fitting into the system, shall we say. And the quote that Patch Adams says is, when you treat an illness, you either win or you fail. You either succeed or you fail. But when you treat the person, you cannot fail. And that's all about that aspect of treating the person with the love, the care, the humanity, the things you've been sharing. And when you're treating someone with that, you can't fail. So it's not treating the illness, it's treating that person as a person with the love, care, and humanity.
You are completely right. Absolutely. And I say that to my trainees. I say to them, do not focus on the numbers, do not focus on someone's cholesterol. You want to look at the whole person. And so some of my patients, I just talk to them. That's all I literally do, and they just appreciate that and nothing more. And the doctor is the treatment. It's absolutely, it's a famous quote, but it's absolutely true. It really is.
Excellent. That's great. Thank you for that. And it's been what you've shared up to now. It's been really amazing. Some of the things you shared from the conversations had before, some new things I'm picking up which we hadn't come across. But so many of these doors being closed for that medical journey, but you've pushed through those and made taken from it to pull into the way you are doing your practice. So, what are some of your daily habits and routines that support you?
Okay, so regular exercise. So I cycle a lot. I've recently started yoga about a month ago, and I'm doing that pretty much every day. And it's brilliant. The kids love doing it with me. So I've bought them their own yoga mats, which have got the poses on. So all three of us will be lined up there doing yoga together. It's a lot of fun, actually. And they do like cycling as well. And Ashley, my younger one, she's 9. She can do 5 kilometers with me now on the bike. And it was pretty impressive for someone of her age. So regular exercise. I read a lot as well. I was growing up, my head was always in a book. Mom would have to tell me off because she thought I read too much. I don't know what Mom thinks about that now. Many years later,
we'll find out in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and my daughters are very similar. They've got a love of reading as well. So absolutely doing that as well. Just catching up with the kids as well. I like doing that too. So yeah, those are my daily habits.
No, that's fantastic. And what's coming through quite strongly from what you're sharing, and also what I know of you as, my cousin, is, you've got the work side and you've got the balance on the family side, which is so important, both, with the kids and with mum and, the extended family. And that's, brilliant that, all of those areas are being looked after and nurtured. So fabulous. The next one we had was, what is one of your favourite quotes? And I know the quotes aren't one which you favour, so if you want to skip this one, that's fine.
Yeah, I said I'm not really a huge quote person, so I tend not to remember them that well. I mean, if you want to give one of you, I think you've already given one, haven't you?
Yeah, we'll stick with the Patch Adams one. That's great. Brilliant. Okay. What is an achievement that you are really proud of?
Several things. So I'm proud of my kids. They're an achievement, and the older one is Shani. She, as I said, has her head in the book all the time. She's doing great things. She's a wonderful piano player, and Ashni, her younger sister, is taking after her as well. They're brilliant, both of them. Another achievement, the kind of GP I am in, I'm absolutely humbled by some of the feedback I receive. If you go onto our surgery website and look at all the Google reviews, they're absolutely amazing. We must be one of the highest rated surgeries in Birmingham, I suspect, with our Google ratings alone. And that's probably the tip of the iceberg. So we get wonderful feedback. I'm also extremely proud of our surgery and the things we've achieved in the past. And I've already talked about the medical centre we built, but some of the developments we've made, I mean, as Shailene already mentioned, we were nominated. So there's something called the NHS Parliamentary Awards, and there are different categories, and we won the regional award for the NHS Future Award, so the future of the NHS, and I think there's 7 different regions, so 7 different winners. We've now got to go to the Houses of Parliament, hopefully in the summer, for the national awards, where we're up against these other 7 regions. And it's quite unusual for a surgery to win this. It's usually big hospital departments. For example, one of the other winners of their award were the team that developed the Oxford vaccine. That's the kind of caliber people we're up against. But we won it because of some of the developments we've made. So we developed something called the My Healthcare app, which is used by 40% of our patients. It's now been rebranded as the Birmingham Solihull app, and it's now gone out to 80% of the surgeries in Birmingham. They use this app to look at their results, book appointments. But we also set up something called a virtual centre, which is manned by a doctor, a pharmacist. And so when COVID hit, we were already set up for remote consulting, video consulting. We had everything on the go, and we just pushed that button and we managed to go ahead with it. We've also set up a prescription ordering department that centralizes prescription ordering for all of our patients and all the surrounding practices patients as well. We almost wanted to turn into the Amazon of prescription ordering, so whereby they'll order it on the app and it gets delivered to them and they get a notification. So yeah, things like that we're working towards. We've also, when COVID launched, we basically set up a nursing home team and centralized nursing home care for all the practices around us. It's under one team from our building, dedicated team of people, and it's completely and utterly transformed a lot of those nursing home patients' care. For example, with the COVID vaccine, we could go in, as soon as we got the AstraZeneca vaccine, our teams are out there vaccinating these patients in nursing homes and getting it done. So we've done that too. We've started streamlining certain things like asthma reviews, contraception reviews, pregnancy reviews. We've launched loads of services through our practice. So in our building, we've got physio, musculoskeletal services, ophthalmology, diabetes, kidney disease, dermatology, ultrasound, just name a few. And a lot of these are virtual services that, again, we were already doing before COVID hit. So we were, I think, a little bit ahead to deal with COVID. And that's the reason why we won that parliamentary award. We've got a very amazing team, as I said, that helped us do this. So yeah, I'm really, really proud of that. And then the other things I'm really proud of, you mentioned that Times article, and I'm going to share that story because I think it's actually quite a nice story. So one of my patients, so I remember I was consulting one day, and I got a phone call from one of the hospital consultants saying there's an article in the Times about you and a little girl, and I was like, alarm bells are going off in my head. What on earth is he talking about? So I phoned him and he started reading it to me, and actually it was a nice story. And a year before, this little girl had been brought to surgery by her mom. Now, as I said, I know what a lot of my patients get up to. So this particular mom, she's a hairdresser. I'd spoken to in the street. I'd run into her. And so she'd actually brought a girl to the surgery, expecting a prescription for some antibiotics. She had something that looked like a bite. I saw her intuitively, you get that gut sort of feeling sometimes, thought something is not quite right here. And once I delved into it, I ended up sending her into hospital, and she got diagnosed with leukemia. Now, I did not know she had leukemia. I just knew something was wrong. So she got diagnosed with leukemia very early, at the age of 5, had chemotherapy, completely cured. And mom was so grateful that this child ended up becoming the face of Birmingham Children's Hospital Cancer. charity. And this article went out to the national press, including the Times and various other things, but the Times was the only one that name dropped me. And I remember getting into work that afternoon, and the girls or the reception team came up to me and said, we are getting some strange phone calls today from patients who want to register with us from all over the country. And I was going, okay, I might know what this is about. So yeah, so we got name dropped in the Times. And then one of the things we try and instill in our kids is they're very privileged kids. So for example, on their birthdays, we try and get them to give things. So one particular year, Ashley, my younger one, I think she was 7, she decided to donate all her presents to Birmingham Children's Hospital. And she did that herself. You know, we were really proud of that. And she raised about £500. So she sent this off to Birmingham Children's, and then she got a letter back. And that letter was from my patient who'd addressed it to my daughter. And I had to sit there and say to Ashley, you do realize that's my patient, and told her the whole story. And then I phoned the mom of the girl up and told her, and she's going, yeah, that's really, really, really touching, that story.
Oh, wow. Full circle. Wonderful.
Yeah. You know, the funniest thing about that is that when she was brought to the surgery, she wasn't actually brought to see me. She was brought to see one of my colleagues, but the mom doesn't remember any of that. She just, and the reason she doesn't is because afterwards I remember, this is the whole being curious, caring for your patients. I'd phoned her, I'd kept in touch with her, you know, not in a consultation, but just when I had a bit few free moments, I'd phone her and say, look, how is she doing now? And so mom remembers all of that and all, you know, the afterthoughts. And that's why she remembers me being that day. And that's why I got name dropped in the Times.
Fantastic. And that's that classic example of what we talk about in Inspiration Point, doing that little bit extra, which makes extraordinary, you know, and that curiosity and that keeping in touch and going that extra mile is what has been that difference.
So yeah, really proud of that. And then more recently, ITV News, who, again, the vaccination programs have been a huge success. They actually phoned us and said, look, we know you guys are doing this. Can we come and video you? So they videoed me giving a vaccine to a patient in the home. They also videoed some of the surgery. And I think they also put our picture in on their website and so forth. So yeah, again, it was really proud. And I know I was the face of that, but actually I keep coming back to this. Without my team, that would never have happened. So
yes,
I'm really, you know, proud of that too.
No, and that's really good. And I think what's coming through and what I know of you also, it's, you know, there is humility there, and it's also that acknowledgement of, you know, it's not something you've done by yourself, but there is a team and a support there. And this extends further also, not just to a team that's in the surgery, but the family team as well, you know, with SEMA support, mum support, the kids, and all of that. It's you know, all of that coming together. So
yeah, I suspect SEMA is probably a better doctor than I am. She's got that, you know, that nature of well, you've obviously met her lots of times, but she does have that very sort of caring, smiling nature. So yeah, she's a very popular doctor as well.
Fantastic. That's great. Thank you.
I told her everything she knows, and I'm saying that because she can't answer back at the moment.
We'll have her on later, don't worry. We'll arrange a session with her. That's great. So, okay, what is one of your favorite books and why? And I know you've got so many books because you've recommended so many to us, and your bookshelf is just, you know, brilliant.
Yeah, we've got loads of books here, and on the Kindle as well, we've got hundreds and hundreds of books. I mean, I mostly read biographies and fiction, but in terms of biographies, two of the best that I've read, Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. He's the founder of Nike. I mean, his story is absolutely amazing. And the other one I really love is Andre Agassi's story. This is a guy who became one of the best tennis players in the world. And his opening line is, he doesn't like tennis. And when you read into his book, actually, he's very grateful for what tennis gave him, but the journey that he had to get there, it's really, really interesting, actually. So absolutely love those two. The other book that I really love is a book called Bounce by Matthew Syed. I don't know if you've read that or not.
I got that one, yeah.
Yeah, it's about the theory of practice over talent. So you need a little bit of talent and a lot of practice to get
10,000 hour, good idea. The 10,000 hour.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, he's put a number on it. You know, I don't know how true that number is, but yeah, very much so. So yeah, those are three that off the top of my head I'd really recommend. One of the books I recommend to my patients a lot is a book called The Chimp Paradox by Stephen Peters. Yeah, it's a great book. He's Ronnie O'Sullivan, psychiatrist, and this book breaks down, you know, mental illness and how to deal with it, and almost puts it into different compartments for people to manage the inner chimp, I think is what he calls it. So yeah, it's a very good book as well.
No, that's great. Yeah, I remember Stephen Peters coming to the corporate place where I used to work before in close to when the book was launched around that time and sharing. So I remember that one. With the Andre Agassi, what reminded me was he had a success, then he had a wobble, and then he came back. And what helped him when he came back was Tony Robbins. And obviously, I've shared this a few times in some of the previous episodes. So Ajay was, 16 years old. Niraj was a few years younger. There was myself, my two older brothers, and my uncle. And the six of us had been inspired to go to Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power weekend. And this was by our cousin Sanjay, who had been on Series 1, who'd gone to it the year before and encouraged us, just come along, try it out. And that had been, for many of us, our journey into personal development. But the phenomenal that, you in your teens and being exposed to some of this stuff, and some of it, obviously is stuff that's come through and rubbed off, and gone further with your journeys and learning. So yeah, that was a special memory for me. So I like tapping into that one. Great, and the other books, right? You mentioned Harry Potter and the Dragon Tattoo books as well. Sharing. So. It comes to our penultimate question, but this one I think is a really powerful one. So what did you learn from your parents?
Resilience, values, hard work, respect. I mean, the biggest thing I think I learned from our parents was hard work. And they, he obviously met my dad all those years ago, and he would always drill into us, you've got to work hard, you've got to work hard to make it. And, you're not going to get anywhere if you don't do that. And I fully believe that, that is true. And our parents sacrificed a lot to put us in this privileged position we're in now. And, you hope that our kids, we elevate them even more, and they would do the same for their kids and so forth. You're almost building those steps, aren't you? That ladder, and putting the next generation slightly higher up that ladder of achievement. But yeah, our parents did sacrifice a hell of a lot to get us there.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, that's great. Thank you. And who or what are your inspirers?
So when you asked me this, I said to you some of my closest friends, actually, rather than famous figures. I see what some of my closest friends have achieved, and it really does spur me on. It honestly does. And we have conversations about various things. And yeah, I'd say my biggest inspirers are my closest friends.
Brilliant. No, that's great. And no, I think that's an important one as well, of our network, our community that we're part of, and what we belong to, and what you shared about during the A-levels, where you were phoning your friend and you were both motivating each other but sharing with each other as well, and supporting each other. Really powerful, and especially in this day and age where with the situation where we're not all able to meet up so physically so well, having that opportunity to make contact, and whether it's a video call or a phone call, and just keep in touch and support each other.
Yeah,
so powerful.
And funnily enough, that particular friend of mine is a really high achiever now. I mean, we're still very good friends now, and yeah, he's a very good guy, and you should see some of the things he's achieved. It's really, really inspiring as well.
Fantastic, brilliant. Maybe we can get him on a future episode as well. Is there any question that I haven't asked you that you'd like to answer, or anything else you'd like to share, Ajay?
I don't think so, but all I can say is thank you for the opportunity, and I hope that people listening have found some of this slightly useful.
Yeah, no, it's been great. I've really enjoyed hearing some of the stuff that wasn't so aware of before, and that message of persistence, hard work, taking on a challenge, really powerful, and of staying grounded and humble, all of those things. So what we will do now is we will open up for some Q&A and some feedback. And if you'd like to ask a question, please drop your name on the chat or drop the question on the chat. And we have a few minutes where we can ask that question. So please feel free to do that. And while we're just getting ready to go into those questions, I'll just share a few more messages. So again, really thank you firstly, Ajay, for sharing wholeheartedly and being part of the Inspiration Point podcast series. I really appreciate that. Really big thank you to Balance Consultancy again for sponsoring this series and also the following series. Next week, we have Nina Joshi Ramsey joining us. It's called Life Well Extended. It's going to be an extended version, so we'll go past the hour to hour 15 or thereabouts. There is so much that we can talk about. Nina is an author. She's written a book about the Bhopal disaster, and at the moment that book is, if I'm not mistaken, being put forward as a screenplay and is going into a finals, but we'll find out more about that next week. She practices EFT and runs tapping sessions. EFT is emotional freedom technique. She's experienced in sharing about how to deal with stress. She, when the Nepal earthquake happened, from here in the UK, she was using various tools to help find where there were survivors of the earthquake and then match up medical teams and army teams to find those survivors and save those lives. And a Samaritan's trustee as well as a volunteer. So a whole bunch of variety of skills, and also working corporate with Reuters and rose very quickly to global head of projects there and being mentored by the leadership team. So she'll share about that. So there's a variety of things that we'll be exploring with Nina next week. So please do sign up and join on that. And we will have a few minutes there to actually do EFT tapping and experience that. As I mentioned, Series 3 is now ready. And after Nina's session next week, we will go into Series 3 dedicated to women, International Women's Day and Mother's Day. And Ajay and Niraj's mum, Anju Mami, she will be our first speaker. Thereafter, we will have Sasha, then we'll have Mary, Hansa, Sonalben, and Karupa. Each of these women have got amazing stories to share. Just a few snippets are on this slide, but more of the information is on the website and on the posters. I'm going to pause the screen there for a moment and come to, I think there's a couple of questions. Let's just see. So Mary's asked, she's interested in your relaxation project. What is this, please? So Mary, is that to Ajay, the relaxation project? Or if you want to come off mute, Mary, and ask what the project is that you're asking about. Had you mentioned the relaxation project, Ajay?
No, I don't think it was me, or maybe I. No, I don't think I did make one.
Okay, let's see if we can get some clarity on that on the question. Tracy's asked, Ajay is such an inspiration. You've achieved so much. What ambitions do you have that you haven't achieved yet? Great question.
I'm very lucky that I've done a lot in my life so far. I think there are still a few parts of the world that I haven't been to that I want to get to, and actually now we can do that with the kids, which is great. So certainly that. I think the other thing as well is I work pretty hard actually, and I want to be in a position, and I suspect I will be in the next 10 years, where I can start winding things down a little bit and handing over parts of the practice to whoever comes after me. So yeah, probably that's the grand plan, I would have thought.
Succession planning, yeah, and retirement, in quotes. Yeah. Okay, so Villain Pies asked, besides your disappointing health issues, what made you so positive to come this forward? So
Right. So Vin Uncle is one of my mum and dad's oldest friends. Him and his wife. We've known those guys for years, actually. So thanks for the question. I mean, I'm not always positive. I mean, we all have our periods where we think the whole world is against you, and those kind of things. What's brought me through it, my family, I suspect, when I had that thyroid cancer. I very much remember me and Sima weren't married. She was working in Leicester. She was there every day. She'd finish her work as a medic on a ward, and she would drive to Birmingham, and she must have been knackered, and she still did it. She moved in with us to help me rehabilitate and commuted to Leicester, and that I still remember that, and not just her, but other members of my family that supported us hugely. So yeah, I think it's that, and now it's my kids. I want to pass on things to them. I want them to be proud of mine and Seema's achievements, and also have that same ambition in themselves to succeed. They copy us all the time.
That's excellent. Yeah, the kids will model what we do. And Vinod, I think I'll plug in as well. I'm Ajay's older cousin, so hopefully I've had some bit of a positive influence on him and Niraj as well.
Well, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, Mary thought she had heard you mention one of the services being relaxation services, but could you just remind us what are some of the services that you're doing at the surgery, and some of the ones which maybe aren't so widely available elsewhere at the moment?
Yeah, so we do. In fact, we do have in-house mental health services as well in the surgery as well. So they do teach things like that. We have social prescribers in the surgery who help patients with social issues. We have loads of specialist services in our building that are delivered from there for all our patients. So they love it. It's a one-stop shop. I think we're almost a mini hospital, and I think we're getting there if we're not already.
Excellent. Great. So Alpan has shared, he is a doctor as well. He's got actually an interesting story. He trained in dentistry first, got the degree, went further in dentistry, and then switched to medicine, and is constantly learning. And he has asked, has there been a situation in your medical career where someone complained against you or weren't happy with your advice? How did you deal with this? What helped you stay positive and keep moving forward?
Great question again. So if you are a doctor and you're practicing in this country, you will eventually get a complaint. You can't help that. I've probably had 2 or 3 in my entire career, and they've been very minimal in terms of the impact towards me. What I say to my trainees is that when you get a complaint, you've got to stand there and ask yourself, did you actually do anything wrong? Did you actually do the best you could? Because the patient's perception may be very different to yours, and you could have done everything that you could have done everything by the book, and they still may not be happy. And I think if you can stand there and say that, then that lets me sleep at night. So the few complaints I have had, I've been absolutely fine with, because I know deep down I've done the right thing. And actually, when I've responded to those complaints, nothing's come of it. A few of those patients are still our patients as well. And the other thing I say to my trainees as well is that, how do you prevent complaints? Well, most patients have already made up their mind that they're going to complain. They're just looking for the right opportunity. So you never want to give them that opportunity. So this is where having that interest, becoming, almost like part of their life. If they like you, they will not complain. Even if you do something, even if you miss something or make a minor mistake, they will still not complain. They will forgive you. So yeah, it's difficult. It does happen, but there are ways of dealing with it. But it is not, it's difficult when it does happen.
Yeah, no, it's one of those ones where it knocks you sideways, because it causes a feeling of imbalance. And you're right, you've got to step back, look at it, consider, is there validity in the complaint, what some of the aspects behind it could be, as well as, I think what you highlighted, doing the best you can with what you got at that point in time, with what you know, and so forth, and feeling that conviction that you did the best you could at that point. So that's there. And not today, but at a later time, I will share a story of the garbage truck, which I think is quite class, which helps bring through some of this aspect of complaining. And in the gratitude workshop that I do, one of the pictures I put up is there's two windows there. One says complaints, one says gratitude. And there's a whole line of people by the complaints one, and no one by going up to the window where it says gratitude. And unfortunately, the world is based on negative bias, and people will complain no matter what. But it's for us to remind ourselves that sometimes the complaint isn't about us, it's about them, and for us to just be grateful, learn from it, and move on. And it does remind me of one other thing. So Versha's on this call. Her husband Amit is, a top cardiologist and working in that field of research in heart patient care. And I remember one thing he had shared years ago in a story where his mentor had said to him, I think when a patient, maybe when one of his first patients had died, he said, the mentor had said to him, this will happen, the patients will die due to maybe a mistake you've made. The thing here is, I understand, okay, a mistake's been made, but make sure you never make the same mistake again. So learn from it in that way. So that was one that I do recall. Brilliant. Okay, that does bring us to the end of the questions. It brings us to the end of the session. The last thing I want to share is we are open for the waiting list for the gratitude and journal training course. So if anyone is interested, please do sign up on the website. Our March course is starting on Sunday, so that's up and running. But if you want to take part in future ones, please do sign up. And so many benefits with gratitude, both on the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. It helps build a strong immunity, and lots of the medical things that we do here about are helped by practicing gratitude on a regular basis. And this is the bit where Ajay mentioned about bounce the 10,000 hour rule. Repetition is key. Building it as a habit is key. Making it part of your lifestyle is key on this. So hope to see many of you next week. If you do have any feedback or any comments, please do send them through to me, Shailene at happylifehabits.co.uk. And we can see if we can incorporate them into future sessions. And if you would like to get hold of a VIP pass for Series 3, get in touch. Otherwise, booking is available on the website. So thank you all and see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks.